Welcome back everyone to this lecture, and this is on enumeration. Now what is enumeration and why is it important? Because before we launch our attack on a website during penetration testing, we must go through a step, that is website enumeration. But what exactly is website enumeration? Simply, if we put the process of gathering information as much as possible about a particular website and web application as our target before taking any further steps, that is what enumeration or information gathering stands for. Think it as a digital reconnaissance. The more we understand about a website structure and working, the more effectively and more likely we get to identify vulnerabilities about that web application and more likely to hack or find bugs in it. Why do we perform website enumeration? From outside, the website might look normal, that it contains multiple pages, it has multiple buttons, just few things to click on. But in the back end, in the behind, there is often much more going on. And as an ethical hacker and as a penetration tester, we must check what is going under the cover. Enumeration helps us answer many critical questions like what service this website is being run on, what ports they have, what ports are open, what firewalls they have, are there any login portals or registration forms, could there be any access, could there be any portal from where we can access admin panel and get admin credentials. All these details can be a potential entry point for us. Knowing them in advance and before we launch a penetration testing attack, our chances gets increased of a successful vulnerability identification and vulnerability assessment to exploit and gain access over them later in a controlled and safe environment. Now, on the very first step of website enumeration, what we are going to do is usage of multiple tools such as NSLOOKUP and host, which allows us just to put the domain name after their tool name and retrieve the information available about these websites and web application available for us. Keep in mind that large websites like Facebook, Instagram or Twitter has multiple IP addresses because they are being hosted on multiple servers. So don't think that they have only one IP address. So if I run a scan and I get a different IP address and you run a scan and you are getting a different address, doesn't mean that it is something wrong. It just basically means that these large websites are being run on multiple servers on multiple geolocations. Also, getting IP addresses can give us an idea of their physical location. Scanning IP addresses and running on them, we can scan those IP addresses and we can gather information about what services are being run on and what server these systems can be running on. And once we know where the site is hosted, what it runs on, we can dig deeper. For example, does it use JavaScript? Is it using any third-party application or third-party software that is still unpatched, outdated, and if it has some vulnerabilities? Are there any input fields like login forums, search bars that we can test? Input fields are especially important because that's where the user and attacker both can interact. For example, in Instagram, you see a search bar option. What if that search bar feature is unsanitized and it is injectable with some injections and it becomes an injection point? Now, if the website has user login, for example Instagram, it has a huge database of users, so it is likely to have a backend database. It might be storing strong sensitive data like usernames, password, email addresses and many login credentials of those users. With enumeration, we can look for SQL injections, many possible vulnerabilities that we can exploit that particular feature, misconfigured servers and many more. In the worst case scenario, if a website is poorly managed, it can be as vulnerable as it might expose and leak users' data. users' data and admin credentials. Part of our enumeration is more likely to include where we are going to check if the website uses HTTPS or not. If it has some partial encryption or no encryption at all, that will more likely to make that website vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attack and to expose user data and user credentials and even admin credentials. To perform all these checks, we are going to use multiple powerful tools like Nmap for port scanning and scanning all the services that are being run on these ports. We are going to use Nikto, that is to check for known vulnerabilities. Then we are going to use Derb to check some brute forcing directories. Then we are going to use WhatWeb that looks for a technical aspect of information gathering to gather information about the technologies being used to host that website and whatever the technology it is using. We will also manually check these websites if they are behaving in some pattern or something, because for even a great web application penetration tester and a bug bounty hunter, it is much needed to do these manual steps regularly. In summary, website enumeration is something we do before launching an attack. We gather as much as information about our target possible. We check their ports, we check their services, and we check every possible aspects to exploit that target. And this step ensures the greater possibility of success during a bug bounty hunting and hacking a particular website. Let's now begin our practicals and see you in the next lecture.